When comparing between our preliminary task and our final product, there are major similarities and improvements which have allowed for our thriller opening to be a major success as opposed to our preliminary task. This is a result of using the preliminary task as a learning curve to help improve our thriller opening. In the film industry, the first step to making a movie is pre-production. Pre-production is the planning of the film before it is filmed. This involves deciding a location, script writing, and plot. For our preliminary task, we had only a short amount of time to prepare and film. Therefore, the preliminary task was short and not as organised as we would have liked. For the thriller opening, we had several weeks to plan before any shooting took place. This included the location, the plot, and deciding of characters and roles. This time to plan made everything much easier when it came down to the filming, as we had a greater amount of time when it came down to the production stage. We had enough time to film scenes a number of times before moving on, so that we could choose which of the takes we had which would best fit our thriller opening. We did not have this ability during the filming of our preliminary task. Our biggest fault during the production stage of the preliminary task was that we chose to follow a thriller theme for our plot. This was difficult to achieve through script and editing, as we were not able to build enough suspense as we would have liked. In terms of location, we were limited to school sites, so we used corridors and theatre space as it was close in accessibility and free to film during lesson time, as lower down the school the students would be in lessons and no one was using the theatre space during that period. When it came to filming our final product, we did not have these hurdles to overcome, as we knew the exact location we wanted to film in and what the lighting would be like in each location for every scene. Without having done the preliminary task beforehand, it would not have been successful, as our preliminary task allowed us to practice camera shots, angles and editing in Final Cut Pro. An example of this would be Match on Action that was used both in our preliminary task and our final thriller opening. As the actor in the scene walked slowly through the door to the theatre, we used this in the same way when we had the protagonist walking through the front door. This allowed us to practice continuity editing in the preliminary task before adding it into our thriller opening, because we wanted to decide if this would best suit any sections in our thriller opening. The preliminary task also allowed us to practice compiling clips together for editing in Final Cut Pro. When recording audio in our preliminary, we could only rely on the microphone built in within the camera. This made editing a difficult task. However, we had the opportunity to use professional microphones that were attachable to the top of our camera if we had any audio to record. The choice of music in our preliminary task made our preliminary look unprofessional. When in the planning process, we took time to find music that would appropriately fit, as well as sound effects that would fit both the music and thriller opening. Overall, I think that our thriller opening was much more successful due to the practice that took place during our preliminary task. We're able to use mistakes made to improve this when working on our thriller opening. The skills obtained from carrying out the preliminary task, alongside the research we did into the thriller genre beforehand, allowed us to produce a project that we're all proud of.